Welcome to the Lake Washington School District Board Candidate Forum hosted by Lake Washington PTSA Council and Emily Dickinson Elementary PTSA. Thank you for taking time out of your busy week to join us here this evening. We'd also like to thank our candidates for attending, and we look forward to having you share your perspective and your goals with us. Before we get going, I want to thank all the volunteers, especially Erica, Farah, Martha, and Molly for making this evening possible. Thank you also to our school district team and Jason, who are helping out tonight running our technology. I'm your moderator, Jane Delsky, and I'm the Region 2 Director for Washington State PTA. Region 2 covers Eastern King County and includes the 6 school districts, Lake Washington, Redmond, Issaquah, or what am I saying? Lake Washington, we're Redmond too. Lake Washington, Issaquah, Bellevue, Mercer Island, Riverview, and Snoqualmie Valley school districts. Lake Washington School District Council serves the PTAs within Lake Washington School District and also serves the cities of Kirkland, Redmond, Woodinville, and Sammamish. The Lake Washington PTSA Council is part of Region 2 of Washington State PTA, which is also part of National PTA. PTA is the largest child advocacy organization both in the state of Washington and in the United States. It's been dedicated over its entirety to the health, education, and welfare for all children for over 100 years. Before I introduce the candidates, please remember, in the interest of civil discourse, to silence your cell phones, you too, over there, and listen quietly to their as they answer their questions. Lake Washington Council is videotaping the candidate forum this evening. The candidates and I have provided our consent as required by Washington state law under RWC 9.73.030 to be recorded by videotape and photography, and also agreed that the Lake Washington Council may post the video on their website. Under Washington state law, no other recordings or photos of tonight's forum are authorized without the express consent of each person being recorded and will not be allowed. Thank you for cooperating with these requirements and helping us to remain in compliance. So now let's meet our board candidates. So first of all, for District 1, Eric, the Liberty. Unfortunately, our incumbent for District 1, Jackie Pendergrass, could not be here this evening due to her son's wedding celebrations. However, Jackie was gracious enough to contribute in her absence the answer to the questions, and her answers will be read verbatim on behalf of the PTSA volunteer, Ms. Natalie Wells. So thank you, Natalie, for taking that on. From District 2, we have Chris Carlson, incumbent, and his challenger, Rob Temper. From District 5, running unopposed, is the incumbent, Siri Bleisner. So here are the ground rules for this evening. Each participant's response will be timed in order to allow all candidates the equal opportunity to share their perspectives in accordance with the 501c3 law and PTA policies and guidelines. To begin, each candidate will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves. Following the introductions, the candidates will be asked a series of 6 questions. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to each question before we move on to the next candidate. There will be no extra time. There will be no rebuttals. I'm going to start at one end of the table and work that way, and then I'm going to start at the other end of the table and walk this way. I've written it down so I don't get confused. So I'll do my best with that. But we're trying to make it, everybody get a chance to go first and not to always be following the same people is my goal. We've made every attempt to generate a broad group of set of questions by pulling questions and topics from parents of children of all ages, parents in every school community, from teachers, principals, the school, from the community members, from city council members, and from business leaders. We've also passed out index cards. Hopefully you had a chance to get one and a pencil if you needed it. You can write down questions that you may have. When you're done, raise the index card up and a volunteer will come get it for you. If you need a second card, we're happy to bring you a second card also. So, in order to limit duplication, please note that not all questions will be asked, nor will your question necessarily be asked in the exact original format that you wrote it. However, at the end of the evening, if you don't get your questions answered, the candidates have agreed to wait out in the entryway for another 20 minutes and you can ask them your questions then. So, thank you for helping us to move efficiently through this process and respecting these guidelines. All right, candidates, one other little tip. The timer goes up. So when you've got 2 minutes, it will go yellow and then red, but it's counting up because the iPad doesn't count down. Okay? So, all right, now the 2-minute introductions. So, Eric, would you like to begin?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Eric Liberty. I live in the Juanita neighborhood of Kirkland with my wife. I'm running for school board because my wife and I are about ready to start a family. And by the time I have kids in the school district, I want our district's capacity problems to be fixed, and I want our schools to be uniformly excellent. I am a member of the Lake Washington Long-Term Facilities Task Force, and I'm on the working subcommittee. It's been tasked with developing, I guess, what this like it sounds like, a long-term facilities plan for the district to sort of form the base of what the next, ultimately what I think the next bond should look like. I'm also the chair of the City of Kirkland Planning Commission. We're just wrapping up a pretty historic 10-year rewrite of our city's comprehensive plan. And there's been some very tremendous outreach as part of that. We were given 3 talking points for our introduction, and I'm forgetting the 3rd. So I'll just keep talking. Oh, right, what my platform is. Right. I'm running because I want the district to put together a bond proposal that is sensible and can pass. And I also want the district to do a better job of re-engaging with the community, with community leaders. I've had experience in this on the Planning Commission, and I'd like to bring that to the school board. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah?
Hi, I'm Sarah Gleasner, and first of all, thanks for coming out to the Candidates Forum, and thank you to our sponsors for this event. A bit about who I am. I was raised in Renton, Washington, and graduated from the local public schools. I have a bachelor's degree in human biology from Stanford University, and a master's degree in public health from the University of Washington. In my professional life, I have been a Peace Corps volunteer, a health educator, and a consultant. Currently, I work at HopeLink as the Outcome and Evaluation Analyst. Working in these diverse communities and settings has provided me with the experience and skills needed to effectively analyze complex issues, an important role for a school board member. In addition, I have been actively engaged with our public schools for many years. As a parent in the Redmond learning community, I advocated directly for my children's needs through all levels of the districts. As a community member, I supported activities that provided important experiential and hands-on opportunities for all students, such as a school musical, chess club, and math teams. As a community member, I was a founding trustee of the Lake Washington Schools Foundation, where I chaired the program committee and developed the Classroom Enrichment Grant Program, which is still going strong 10 years later. 4 years ago, I felt it was time to address larger policy and system-wide challenges of our district. I ran for school board with 3 goals. 1, to advocate for stronger community engagement. 2, to address equity issues. And 3, to ensure educational programs and environments that provide the right academic fit. I am proud to say that we have accomplished much in these areas, and at the same time, I realize we still have a ways to go. My goals for the next 4 years have not changed, but my ability to advocate for that change as a school board member has dramatically increased. I have 2 children who are products of the Lake Washington schools. The quality and well-roundedness and strength of the education they received is clear. I want to ensure that that is a reality for all our students.
Thank you. Chris?
I'm Chris Carlson. I've been a district parent for 12 years, and I currently have children in 5th, 8th, and 11th grade. One of my sons has autism, so I understand the challenges that SPED parents face every day. I've coached more than 10 seasons of Lake Washington Youth Soccer. I spent 4 summers as the announcer and starter for the Kirkland Orcas swim team. I was the Lakeview Elementary PTSA legislative rep for 2 years and helped make improvements in K-12 math education part of the top 5 priorities for the state PTSA Legislative Assembly. I was on the Washington State Board of Education panel that rewrote the K-12 math standards. I was also on the SBE panel that rewrote the K-12 science standards. In my spare time, I'm a faculty member at the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center, where I specialize in genetic epidemiology and molecular immunology. I work in a field that did not exist when I was an undergraduate, so I fully appreciate the importance of preparing our students to be lifelong learners, not merely cogs in the machine. I've been honored to serve 2 terms on the Lake Washington's Board of Directors. Our district has undergone explosive growth over the last few years. Expanding our facilities to accommodate this growth isn't optional. Passing a bond is not a platform position, it's a necessity. The important work begins after the bond passes, as we need to grow thoughtfully. I was first elected to the board on a platform of 2 major issues: changing the K-12 math curriculum and expanding access to choice school opportunities. I'm pleased to say that the K-5 math curriculum we adopted during my last term is a vast improvement over investigations, but the middle school and high school adoptions remain to come up in the next term, and I would like to finish this project. With regard to choice schools, in my first 2 terms, we've more than tripled access to them by expanding ICS, founding Tesla STEM, and bringing the Cambridge program to Juanita. I want to encourage further expansion of choice schools, such that all of our schools meet the same standards for a rigorous education.
Thank you, Chris. Natalie, for Jackie.
Thank you, Erica, and those that assisted you in putting this forum together. Special thanks for understanding my family commitment that keeps me from being here in person. My husband Tom and I have lived in our home for 40 years. Our 2 sons went to Juanita Elementary, Finn Hill, and Juanita High School, and both are graduates of University of Washington. I've served on the school board for 20 years. I have enjoyed very much my time on the board and believe that I've been instrumental over the years in improving the quality of education opportunities for our students. Having our students graduate and leave our district ready for their future success is the primary responsibility of the board. I have been a champion of our programs and schools that allow families to better meet the needs of their student. While our district does a very good job of this, there is always room for improvement and some students not being reached today. Before becoming a board member, I was highly involved with PTA at all 3 levels. I chaired many committees, was treasurer several times, and co-president at Juanita Elementary and Juanita High. I also was a VP, treasurer, and co-president at council. I've been a PTA member since 1982. I continue to volunteer at Juanita Elementary on a regular basis. I am a member of Assistance League of the East Side and advisor to Lake Washington Schools Foundation. Over the next term, I plan to continue to work to resolve our capacity issues. I will continue to work to see that this district looks at each student as an individual in order to meet their specific learning needs. I would also like to see more opportunities to challenge students in our traditional schools. Our goal is 100% student graduation, and I will work to see us achieve this. I also will continue to work to see the continuation of increased parent and community involvement in as many aspects as possible in our district. With over 70% of our community without children in Lake Washington School District schools, it is a challenge to provide all residents with information about our district, but critical that the district invests in doing so.
Thank you, Natalie. Rob.
Hi there. My name is Rob Tepper. I've been living in the Lake Washington School District for over 20 years now. I have 3 children in the Lake Washington School District. My middle son, Skylar, is in a 3rd grade class with 28 other kids. Now, this is not an environment that is conducive with a positive learning experience. And that's what prompted me to become a candidate, this and many other reasons, to have students have their classrooms get more crowded every year is not the path, not the direction that we should be going in. And unfortunately, as many of you are aware, this is now the norm. This is the standard. This is by no means the exception. Our teachers are not able, our talented faculty and teachers are not able to put their best foot forward when they're too busy playing traffic cop in the classroom. And I'm concerned that we're now at the crossroads where some of our best and most talented teachers are going to be siphoned away to other school districts because they're not going to want to put up with this much longer. So how did we arrive here? How did we get to this point? Well, let's flash back to a little over a year ago. On the same night where all other comparable school districts, on February 2014, when they all passed their school bond, their school obligation bonds, ours failed. On the same night that Mercer Island and Bellevue and the North Shore School District all had success on election night, we did not. Now, why should that be? Are we not as sensitive to school-related issues as others in those districts? Of course not. Are we not doing as well in the economic recovery? No. We failed because our school board did next to nothing to promote the bond on the ballot. I have a lot of neighbors, and since then, district-wide, I have...
Thank you, Rob.
Okay.
Okay. You'll get more, you'll get a chance
I
to
think
talk
I'm next,
more.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no, we're going to start back at this end.
Okay.
So you'll be asked
So it's a
series-
hard cap.
It is.
All right.
You'll be asked a series of 6 questions. For each question, you'll have a minute to answer. There'll be no rebuttals. Please finish your answer when time is called. All right. So we're going to start, Eric, because that's what I've written down on the paper. Okay? Go for it. In recent years, the Lake Washington School District has experienced difficulty in gaining community approval for the bonds needed to fund capital projects. What do you think is the cause of the recent bond failures? What do you believe needs to be changed in order to make the next one successful? And how would you make the success happen?
Sure. Well, I guess there's 3 reasons why the bonds haven't been successful. One is the bond themselves. It's tough to sell a $750 million bond, and the second reason is there's a trust gap between the community and the school district. There has been a vocal and active opposition to the last several bond measures. And because of that, people have come to believe that the school district has not been an effective steward of public funds. So, the third has been, this is, I suppose, what Mr. Tepper was getting at, a failure to effectively sell the bond to the constituency. So how do we address this? Well, one, we put together a sensible bond proposal that has benefits district-wide, that builds in small wins before asking for big projects. Oh, I'll tell you the other ones later.
Siri, would you like to answer the question?
Yeah, a minute's really quick. As for the cause for the recent bond results, I believe it's a combination of items, and I think Eric mentioned some of those. One of the key ones, I believe, is that we really did not have a robust community process prior to putting the bond out and to analyze our reality, that we had aging buildings, unprecedented student growth, likely state-mandated changes that increased the number of classrooms required, and increasing educational demands for our students. Without that solid community process prior, individuals were taken by surprise by the overall request, in disbelief as to the extent of the problem, and questioned the validity and transparency of the district. So to be successful the next time around, we need to ensure that the proposed solution aligns with the needs and demands of our community, improve our overall communication strategies, and build solid relationships with all of our stakeholders so that there are no surprises. We need to address the perceptions that exist within the community and to revisit assumptions and processes and make necessary changes.
Thank you, Siri. Chris.
Passing a bond has to be a top priority in the coming term to accommodate the unprecedented growth in our student body. This year alone, we added nearly 800 new students to our district, making our district the 4th largest in the state. There are 2 major reasons that the bond missed the required 60%. First, we asked for too much. Second, we left the door open for the anti-campaign to sow doubt, because confused voters will and should vote no. We've done a lot of soul searching on how to enhance community confidence in the district through the Long-Term Facilities Task Force. And this has shed light on important issues where we've lost trust. For example, although our district-wide enrollment forecasts are remarkably accurate, individual buildings have occasionally missed the mark. In hindsight, we clearly should have put a second story on Lakeview Kindergarten Wing when we had the chance. So improved demographic forecasts are one of the key recommendations from the task force. We need to take these recommendations seriously, and we need to scale back the bond request to deal with growth first, and sadly, defer maintenance in order to avoid sticker shock.
Thank you, Chris. Natalie, tell us what Jackie answered.
Information gained from several sources, including surveys, showed three main reasons for the failure: increasing taxes, high cost of individual buildings, and the negative campaign group. Changes to make the next bond measure successful are underway. The board and district formed the Long-Term Facilities Task Force almost a year ago. They have been working to understand the growth needs as well as conditions of our aging facilities. Their work has been well publicized and inclusive. It will be very important in preparing the next bond measure. Passage of the next bond is the work of a separate political campaign committee, a volunteer group of community citizens separate from the district. School districts cannot actively campaign to pass their levy and bond measures. This provides much confusion to voters as they think the district isn't doing enough, but legally they cannot campaign. This political committee is currently laying the groundwork for an improved messaging and outreach campaign that will be supported by many community volunteers and organizations. As soon as the school board approves putting a bond on the ballot, this community group will begin their campaign work.
Thank you, Natalie. Rob, we'd love to hear your say.
The bond failure 3 times in a row now has been a self-made problem, and all the repercussions that have come about is because the school board unfortunately did not communicate the needs to the constituents for the bond and the urgency of it. When I drove around my neighborhood and the neighborhoods around my neighborhood leading up to the bond on the ballot election, all I saw were the vote no for the school bond proposition. I was looking for the signs for the vote yes on the school bond, but I couldn't find them because they didn't exist. They didn't do even the bare minimum, because that is the bare minimum. You have to knock on doors. You have to send out pamphlets. I've been collecting a pile of pamphlets from other school districts that have sent out comprehensive information with graphs and tables and question and answer pages. I want to see what they do well, and how I can learn from their successes. Because this school district, I grabbed this one on my way out the door tonight, was a school district that was up against it. They were supposed to not be able to pass their bond, but they did.
Thank you, Rob. Okay, I have a question for you, though. Another question. If elected, how would you build relationships and restore trust with families in the districts and with your constituents that do not have children in the district? How would you specifically engage the different state and local governments, including but not limited to city councils and the King County Urban Growth Management Committee? It's you.
Oh. Okay, this is an important question. So to me, speaking about constituents that don't have children in the school district is a very important point that a board member should never overlook. It's easy to conclude that a school board director would likely ignore a member of the community that doesn't have any skin in the game or school-age children, but I think it's vital and it's incumbent upon a top-notch school board director to reach out to these folks. Moreover, as it pertains to the bond, to illustrate to them the value of voting for the bond for the sake of their property values and the sake of the overall community, because the reality is, the truth of the matter is, that the greatest asset that a community has is the strength of its schools. Every neighborhood has a Starbucks. People don't move into a new home or an existing home because it has a Starbucks. Every neighborhood has a mall, and they move into new homes and existing homes because it has a strong school in the neighborhood. And I'm concerned that we're at a juncture right now where our school district is very vulnerable. And that's why I'm here tonight.
Thank you. Natalie, for Jackie?
Reaching our non-parent constituency has been a concern of mine since first elected to the Lake Washington School Board. As a board member, I've worked with and encouraged our district in finding ways to connect with the greater community around their schools. I will continue to do so if re-elected. I also will work to understand why there is a lack of trust in order to help and continue the work to restore trust with both our parents and community at large. Providing a wide variety of communication tools and including more people in district activities will help to achieve this. Though Lake Washington School District and school board directors have long-standing collaborative relationships with each of its distinct municipalities, the King County countywide planning policies and recent updates have added long-absent tools for school districts. Now they address coordination required between jurisdictions and public school districts in relation to growth and growth management. For Lake Washington, this is particularly important in regard to King County, as the district owns property in unincorporated King County that cannot have schools built on them. Working together is imperative in dealing with continued growth in our community.
Thank you. Chris?
The county and state are important arenas for board members to provide feedback on policy, but the most important relationship is with our cities. We have quarterly meetings between district leadership and Redmond, Sammamish, and Kirkland. More frequent meetings won't help, but better operational integration is a key opportunity. As the cities plan for increased urban densities under the Growth Management Act, we need district staff working elbow to elbow with them. Better integration will help in both directions. District forecasts of student enrollment need to leverage long-term city growth plans, and district facilities are more than just classrooms. This is part of the outreach to non-constituents. An example is the Juanita High School pool. We are left in the awkward position of owning the last public indoor swimming facility in Kirkland. And while we're committed to keeping it open as long as possible, it's already on life support. Due to lack of state support for pools in schools, we don't plan to rebuild the pool, but we fully appreciate the importance of pools. So we need to work closely with Kirkland to find a viable long-term solution. This is just one example of the critical need for better coordination.
Thank you, Chris. Siri?
Building and maintaining relationships with the community is a key role for school board directors, which is why community engagement is one of the 5 goals in our strategic plan. To build relationships and trust with our community requires involvement of board members to attend community and school events, participate in local organizations, and be part of coalitions and committees that address the broader community and helps to build those relationships. In addition, we need to expand opportunities such as task forces, town halls, committees, surveys, public comment for citizens to be able to actively participate in developing key district policies and to voice their opinions, feedbacks, and concerns. We also need to ensure a high level of customer service, where an individual's question, concern, or issue is listened to and responded to in a timely fashion. I will continue to work to strengthen our collaboration with the local cities, meeting regularly with our councils and their mayors to discuss issues of concern, growth, and areas of collaboration.
Thank you, Siri. Eric?
This is one of the things that we need to fix if we're ever going to pass a bond. It's planning 101 that top-down planning is not a successful way to plan. We need to engage and partner with cities and community leaders when we're forming our plans, not form a plan and then go out and tell people what our plan is. So the district needs to develop a policy of consulting with city officials and working with the cities to plan, not form a plan and then tell the cities what it is. I'll just leave it at that. 30 seconds.
Thank you.
Can I just time?
Okay. We'll go on to our 3rd question, and Siri, you're going to start with response to this one, okay?
Oh, okay.
What do you think are the greatest challenges facing our teachers today, and how can the district ensure that the Lake Washington School District is attracting and retaining high-quality teachers and paraeducators in our district? Please be specific.
Okay, I believe the biggest challenge teachers face today is balancing the demands of the community, the requirements of public schools, and the social, emotional, and educational needs of our students. These areas may have conflicting goals, and this can make for a very stressful work environment. In order to retain and attract great teachers and paraeducators to the Lake Washington School District, we need to ensure a positive work and learning environment where students, teachers, staff, and community are all engaged in our public schools. We need to appropriately compensate our teachers and paraeducators. We need to engage teachers and staff in the development and delivery of quality educational programs. And we need to provide professional development and collaboration time so that school employees are able to be lifelong learners and continue to grow personally and professionally.
Thank you. Chris?
After passing a bond, there will still be important challenges in the classroom. Overall, our teachers and paras do a remarkably good job with available resources. With fewer dollars per student, last year our students outperformed Bellevue on the ELA assessment in every grade tested. We pretty much tied them in math. I'm very proud of their performance. The greatest challenge that our teachers face in the classroom is differentiating instruction for both struggling students and high-achieving students. An increasing proportion of students are eligible for either ELL, free and reduced lunch, or both. Meanwhile, 10% of our first graders are gifted, yet only 2% are in gifted programs. Targeted programs like KISN and Quest, more on KISN later, are an important ongoing investment that the district makes to support our teachers. Recruitment and retention of our teachers and paras is about more than just salary. Making them feel respected is critical, as is investing in their professional development through continuing education. My favorite personal investment is national board certification. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Natalie or Jackie?
Today's teachers face many challenges. To name a few: diverse population of students and their needs, high demand for performance from parents and the public, state and district requirements for what to teach. It is important to include them in decision-making around curriculum, testing, and the classroom to help them meet these. First and foremost, we know that attracting and retaining high-quality teachers and other staff means having competitive compensation. The state pays for 180 days for some of our staff. It takes local levy dollars to pay for additional days and for more staff to meet the needs of our students. Another challenge that hasn't been addressed but comes up during each legislative session is increasing state funds for high cost of living areas. This is an issue that I continue to raise with legislators. It would be great for our teachers to be able to live closer to where they work. Retaining high quality staff includes not only compensation but support and training, both areas that are supported in our annual budgets. Lake Washington has a very strong new teacher orientation and professional development program. In fact, ahead of state standards, which our teachers have very much appreciated. This has been instrumental in teacher retention and
Thank
student
you.
outcome.
Rob?
This is frankly one of my greatest concerns right now. Given the fact, as I pointed out, that the standard ratio of students to teachers is pushing up against 30 to 1, I'm very concerned that our best and our most talented teachers are going to be lured away to other school districts. It has to be really frustrating for a teacher on a daily basis to work under these conditions, and I worry they're not going to want to put up with it much longer. They need our help, or I'm predicting we're going to lose the best of the bunch, and that could be devastating to our district at this time. So I will ensure them they will have the confidence in me that they're going to have all the equipment and resources that they need. My plan, that I haven't had an opportunity to discuss yet, but I look forward to it, to craft a responsible school bond and have it pass, is going to be successful. And then not only will we be able to hold on to our best and most talented teachers, but we'll be able to recruit others as well.
Thank you. Eric?
Our capacity problems make it harder for teachers to do their jobs. They have to deal with larger class sizes. They have to deal with schools that don't have additional resource rooms. But the biggest challenge facing teachers in this district is, for most, it's simply too expensive to live here. One of the things that we can do as a district is we can partner and work with local municipalities to encourage the placement of more affordable housing closer to the schools. It's making it so that teachers who teach in our schools can actually live in our communities. I'm just wrapping up early today.
Okay, great. Thanks, Eric. All right, Natalie, we're going to start with you with the next question. There is some feedback in our district that special needs program needs some improvement. What would be your top 3 priorities for supporting the special needs population?
Special education students are a very diverse population with varying needs and requirements. To provide them with their individual education programs in a safe environment, make them feel a part of the classroom and the school, and provide adequate numbers and trained staff. Currently, the school district is in the process of auditing the special needs program. It will include talking with staff and parents of these students, I look forward to the report and the recommendations made for improvement in the program and services we provide.
Thank you. Chris? No, we're going this way now. Chris?
On 4.
Yep.
Oh, man, okay. Sorry, I was trying to figure out. Okay. It's been said that if you've met one special needs student, you've met one special needs student. Our special needs kids deserve just as much differentiation as any other student. As the parent of a son with autism, I'm quite sympathetic toward other SPED parents, as I know how hard we have to advocate for our children inside of the system, even when the system does care. As with any other aspect of the district, there's always room for improvement. Fortunately, just like all our other students, staffing ratios have not changed in the classroom for SPED or for normal classrooms. My top 3 priorities for the SPED community are, first, to increase transparency inside our system so that we can assess responsible intervention at a more granular level. Is our new K-5 literacy curriculum working for dyslexic students? Second, I want to maintain the ongoing training of SPED teachers and staff as the intensity of necessary services per student seems to be increasing. And third, I want to try to find a way to give learning centers permanent homes. On this last point, the district has done a good job of consolidating the learning centers across the system, such that we have 2 at each elementary school that serve special needs students.
Thank you. Okay, Siri?
So, as stated earlier, the special needs students is a very diverse population. And so in thinking about that, my priorities would be having high quality teachers and staff who provide services to our students, because this requires the opportunity for professional development and training for all staff to stay up to date on developments in the field and in various special needs areas such as the autism spectrum and dyslexia. We also need to leverage the incredible strength in our community. The family members of students with special needs often have a wealth of experience that can help support not just their child, but all students, as well as the skills of practitioners at the University of Washington Children's Hospital who are keeping up to date with the ever-changing environment. A strong collaboration model is vital to the success of these programs. And finally, the district needs to invest the needed time and resources to ensure that the appropriate educational interventions are implemented and accessible to our students. Thank you.
Thanks, Siri. Eric?
The district has an active and impressive special education PTSA group, and we need to do a better job of making sure that we're engaging with that group and we're making decisions that could potentially affect them. So I think that if I'm a board member, I will make it a priority that group is consulted with every decision that affects facilities and that affects the learning environment of special ed students. The second is, because special education is not a one-size-fits-all approach, we need to have more choices. Increasing the number of choice schools of programmatic opportunities will provide more choice and more opportunities for families to find the fit for their child. And third, to return to the space issue, not having resource rooms affects special needs students. We need to pass a bond, and we need to, there we have it.
Thanks, Eric. Rob?
So number 1 would be additional staff support. Number 2, encouraging even more parental involvement, because no one knows a child better than a parent, and certainly no one knows their child better than a special needs parent. So finding ways to, or paths to make that happen for parents that would be interested in being more involved in their student scholastic life, I think would be wonderful. And number 3, back in February, there was the reboundary issues, and they relocated some students to other schools, and they hired an independent contractor, an engineer, to decipher what areas made the most sense to be moved. And on the unveiling night at Lake Washington High School, I was there, and all 3 scenarios for the Lakeview Elementary area were a sliver of the Yarrow Bay community. And then a week or 2 or 3 later, they scrapped that plan. The school board decided they were going to move the special needs community. And I was completely blown away when I was at the school board meeting on that evening. I would like some of Eric's time. I'd love to tell you more after it's over outside.
Chris, you're going to start with the next question. Lake Washington School District offers a number of choice schools with alternative programming such as Tesla STEM at the high school level and the Environmental and Adventure School at the middle school level. These offerings are extremely popular and successful, and as a result, there are many who are unable to attend the school but would like to attend. And as a result, there are many due to insufficient space. How would you propose to meet the needs of all the families who apply to the choice schools but are unable to get a slot?
All of our middle and high schools should be choice schools. Choice is about finding the right lens through which each student fully engages with education, not about rigor. Our comprehensive schools deserve to promote their offerings their unique advantages and shouldn't be considered defaults. As a personal example, we explored the middle school lotteries for both my older sons. Both drew in the 600s for ICS, so I can promise you that nobody gets special treatment in the lottery. However, the important thing for me is that although we did lottery into choice schools for both of them, in both cases, we chose to go to Kirkland Middle School because it offered specific strengths. In conclusion, I'm highly supportive of developing additional innovative programs for middle and high school students, like the Cambridge program at Juanita, but we need to stop confusing choice with rigor. Properly realize choice is about whether you learn English through Frankenstein or Jane Eyre or Chaucer, not about whether you learn English.
Thank you, Chris. Natalie, you're good. Next.
Choice schools and programs are an ongoing topic of discussion between our board and our superintendent. Adding new schools means adding space. With our current space constraints, this becomes very challenging to accomplish. My personal belief is we need to be providing more classes and programs within our neighborhood and traditional schools at all levels that offer students the opportunities that the choice schools do. By providing more choice programs in neighborhood schools, the district could meet the needs of those that the choice schools are unable to accommodate. As an example, STEM programs currently are in every high school, both as a signature program as well as other classes. Middle schools also are developing and including more and more STEM-related classes. I was quite impressed recently when we were presented with information about what each middle and high school is doing in this area. It is quite exciting. At the same time, we must continue to provide programs for students with interests in the arts and other subjects that will make them successful in their post-high school career choices. It is important to remember all of our students' interests and needs.
Thank you, Natalie. Rob.
I'm a big fan of the choice schools. I've gone on record recently as saying that the STEM school is probably the greatest success of the school board over the past few years. However, I want to be sure that the success of these great choice schools isn't coming at the expense of the rest of our schools. So while I want our children to strive for these schools, what we don't want to see is a mass migration to these schools because our regular schools have gone down in quality. So again, I have a plan, and that plan would be to take some of the great ideas that are working so well in these choice schools and figuring out where parts of it can be implemented into the regular schools. It's a philosophy that I'm actually very passionate about. I call it identifying best practices and replicating them. Figuring out what areas of our school district are working best and implementing them in other areas while at the same time taking the areas that are just not working and eliminating them.
Thank you, Rob. Eric?
Yeah, I think you're going to hear the same. I think you're going to hear the same. Am I on? And now I'm on. You're going to hear the same thing from me that you just heard from everybody else. One of the district's biggest success over the last few years has been the development of choice schools. One of our biggest failures has not been doing enough of it. I'll echo what I've heard from everybody else, and that is we need to create more opportunities for students to learn through the lens that fits them best. Not everybody will learn English by reading Dickinson. I don't know if that was the analogy you just used, but Frankenstein. So we need to increase opportunities for learning through different lenses, not just in standalone schools, but within the comprehensive schools themselves, sub-schools within the schools. So there you have it. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Siri?
Ditto could be a line. However, I do believe that offering the right learning environment, the academic fit, the lens, for every child is important. And choice schools are one of those strategies. Other LWSD programs such as Cambridge and Futures at Juanita, Quest, WANIC, signature programs in engineering and global health are also strategies to ensure that academic fit for all. However, there are still wait lists, so we have not met the need for academic fit expressed in our community. We need to continue to develop and articulate a vision of what choice looks like in Lake Washington School District, which I see as a menu of options. We need unique educational programs in all our schools. And in addition to the strategies mentioned above, which could be expanded, there are other academic fit strategies to explore, such as schools within a school, dual language immersion, learning through internships. On top of that, I am certain that there are other strategies we have not even thought of. With a clear policy and plan, we can begin to strategically expand our choice offerings throughout all learning communities.
Okay, thank you. All right, Eric, you're going to answer the question first. Our large district is home to an extremely diverse population and schools with different challenges and needs. Our school district's stated mission is every child future ready. However, the feedback across the district suggests that imbalances frequently exist across schools in every grade level, resulting in different educational opportunities and environments at each school. Imbalances include, but are not limited to, the availability of AP and honors classes, support for students needing extra help, support for average but below Quest level students, community-raised funds that support in-school activities like Art Start and materials like extra science kits, books, and microscopes, and after-school activities and associated fees. Should the school district play a role in equalizing or redistributing in-school opportunities and after-school community resources to provide equal opportunities in each school? If so, what would be your strategy to address the gaps across the schools in our district?
Long question.
It is a long question.
Did you go over next?
Yeah. Nobody's going to disagree with me that no matter where you live in this district, you should be able to receive the same uniformly excellent education. But to do that, we need to have a policy in place that when we're thinking about where we're going to modernize a new school, how we're going to modernize it, that we look at and we prioritize schools and areas that need it. Schools that have a lower test scores, schools that have more aging facilities should be prioritized. It's quite as simple as that.
Okay, now we're going that way around. So, Rob, you're next.
All right. Well, just generally speaking, I never believe that it's your best option to equalize by shifting resources. I prefer to upgrade by building and adding. You'll never convince me that a proper solution is to take from the haves in our district and give to the have-nots. That, again, is why passing a responsible bond is so critical. Failing to have a school bond passed 3 times in a row now has us considering measures and solutions that, frankly, are beneath the Lake Washington School District. And I say that with bias. I've lived here over 20 years, as I've said now. I followed the work of the Long-Term Facilities Task Force very closely, and I was horrified. Not by the job that they did. They had a very tough task, and they did a very passionate and amazing effort. But some of the solutions that they were forced to have to consider and that they came up with made me very concerned, and that's why I feel prompted to be here as a candidate tonight.
Thank you. All right, Natalie?
This question mixes the school day with after-school activities. Equity throughout our schools is very important to me. Let's start with the school day. My last response talked about having more choice programs in each of our schools. This would address some of the imbalances mentioned, but there always will be the challenge, especially in high school, of having enough students wanting a particular topic in space. Adding safety net support classes or time is something I wish we could do at all schools. Unfortunately, there isn't enough funding available to do this, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be working toward the school. On after-school activities, there is not nearly enough funding for the district to provide what we need to do during the school day and cover all after-school activities. What Lake Washington is able to provide comes from levy dollars, as the state does not provide for this. After-school activities in the high school and middle school are supported by ASB fees. For elementary schools, the before and after-school activities are provided by PTAs. Since each is an independent entity, I don't know a good way to redistribute what they do.
Thank you. Chris?
1 minute response. Haiku is necessary. I cannot do it. A core set of AP classes needs to be available at every high school. However, many more AP classes exist and could be offered universally. So this is an example of where I believe we should just encourage local, innovative programs to develop so that students can choose to go to the school offering their preferred blend of AP classes. Should the district formally equalize PTSA donations and programs? No. Not every elementary needs a ski bus. Should the district focus district resources on specific populations? Heck yes. For anyone who watched the board meeting on October 5th, the Kindergarten Intensive Safety Net is a major investment in at-risk kids, and the kids are showing tremendous gains. KISM is not evenly distributed across buildings, nor should it be. We should make sure that every student truly can be future ready, but discouraging local PTSAs from supporting local schools is not the answer.
Thank you. Siri?
Our community is invested in their neighborhood schools, which is clear based on the strength of our PTAs, our parent and community volunteers, and families choosing to live here. I want to encourage that investment at the local level, as well as district-wide. So yes, the school district should and does play a role in ensuring equity. One strategy has been the creation and partnerships with the Lake Washington Schools Foundation. LWSF provides opportunity for all schools, regardless of ability to raise money, to receive funds and grants for enrichment activities such as STEM programs and Reaching for Success grants. The district is a key collaborator with LWSF, working to develop programs that serve all our students, and we should continue to strengthen that partnership. In addition, in a role as a board member, is to ensure that we proactively analyze what gaps exist, determine barriers to address those gaps, and develop and implement a plan to resolve these inequities at whatever level is needed: local school, district, board, or community.
Great, thank you. Eric?
Sorry.
This is... Yes, you did. We got through everybody. Okay, we're going to do, because we're running, they've done a great job answering questions. We're actually going to cut the lightning round to 2 questions, and that's what the little talking up here was a few minutes ago. So we're going to start with Rob going that way. So you're going to go first, and then we're going to come back, okay? And these are only 20 seconds to respond. You have to be brief and to the point, and there are no rebuttals. All right, so Rob, would you support or oppose changing the high school start times? Please respond with support or oppose, no qualifications.
Well, I would support. I recently read Bellevue's change in start times over the past couple of days, and if there's data suggesting
Okay, so you support. Thank you. Eric?
I support.
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 Support. Great, thank you. All right. In 20 seconds or less, if the next bond does not pass, what is your solution for the district?
move.
And no, wait, Siri, you're starting this one. Okay. Specifically, would you support year-round school now to fix the immediate overcrowding with these issues? So I guess it's a yes or no.
That sounds like a yes or no.
Yep. So so specifically, would you support year-round school? Yes or no?
What was the whole question?
Okay. Well, the beginning is, if the next bond does not pass, what is your solution for the district? Specifically, would you support year-round school?
It would depend on the timing of the bond, and we'd have to analyze the situation.
Okay, this is yes or no. So you're okay. Thank you, Siri.
All right.
Since that wasn't one of the solutions proposed by
I know,
the task force, I have a problem
You
saying
have-
yes or no to it.
Right.
Multi-tracking, if that's the question, if the question is multi-tracking, that's the only viable
Eric?
solution, yes.
Or Erica, where are you? Okay,
Okay.
you have 20 seconds, okay. So, do you want to give into Chris's comment about multi-tracking? That's fine, okay. All right, I'm gonna read it one more time. So are you okay with 20 seconds? Okay, all right. If the next bond does not pass, what is your solution for the district? Specifically, would you support year-round school now to fix the immediate overcrowding issues?
So I'll start.
Okay, yes, Siri.
Okay. Depends on the timing of the bond to analyze, so I would analyze the situation, determine if at a point that need to implement the if cannot build recommendation by the Long-Term Facilities Task Force in its final form.
Okay, great. All right. Eric.
Sure. The short answer is yes, and I support it by first piloting in our choice schools, which are oversubscribed.
Okay. Rob.
I don't support year-round schooling. I think that's an absurd solution. And I only said move as a bit of a tongue-in-cheek response. I don't know if you've seen the slope of the decline of school districts that have had 2, 3, 4, and 5 consecutive bond failures, but I can tell you, I've researched this, they go downhill at an accelerated rate. So it's something to be very concerned about, and we're right up against that now. So am I against the clock.
Natalie, do you have? You
Yes,
probably don't
if
have.
the next bond does not pass, we should explore alternatives such as year-round school and explore alternative locations for some programs such as preschools.
Okay. Chris?
I absolutely hate the concept, but I believe the long-term task force did their homework. So without new facilities, that's the only viable option they identified.
Okay, thank you. So do you have questions from the audience? Great. All right, we're going to have 20 seconds for all responses. And let me figure out, okay, so Sarah went. And 20 seconds?
We did have a minute, but we got so many questions from the audience that we're
You guys have been really, really wonderful. Thank you for all your questions. Okay, so let's see, I had to figure out, right, Siri went last. So actually, Natalie, if you have, so since Jackie is not here, she did write some responses for some kind of what she thought might be questions. Natalie, if you have something, you'll raise your hand and let us know if you've got something that you think fits, but otherwise, we'll just go from there. So, Natalie, you would be starting normally, but I'll let you have a chance, then Rob, you're gonna go next, and we're gonna go around that, we're going that way, okay? All right, so the first question is, Kirkland's proposal for new parks, for new parks district will commit the taxpayer to over $240 million of new taxes. Will you oppose this bond? If not, where will taxpayers come up with the necessary funds to pay for new school bonds? Okay, go ahead. Okay. Rob?
What are you referring to? The ARC?
The new parks
Okay, yeah.
district.
I would love to be for the ARC, but I have to have priority. And right now, the priority when it comes to the taxpayer would be our children. So as much as I think it's great to have the possibility of an ARC one day, at the expense of the taxpayer feeling squeezed and not to fathom that they would vote against it because they voted in the ARC, to me, is unacceptable.
Thank you. Right, Aaron?
I will not be voting I live in Kirkland, I will not be voting for the ARC proposition because there is a finite amount of community desire for tax funds, and ultimately I prioritize school districts over aquatic centers.
Okay. Siri?
I won't be voting for it because I'm a Redmond resident and not in Kirkland. And I believe that's up to each individual person to make that decision as to around their taxes. It's all around a definition of what your priorities are and what the level of government is to be.
Chris?
I take some issue with the $240 million number. I believe that it's not even close to accurate.
I'm reading what's
Me
coming.
too.
But that said, I believe that swimming is important. Lake Washington, for God's sake, we are a water community. We have waterfront. We need to have an indoor pool, period. Now, is anybody going to dispute that? I don't know, but we need to pay for it. We need to step up and do that.
Thank you, Chris. All right, Chris, actually, you're going to start with the next question.
Sorry.
All right, no, that's totally fine. Okay, with the number of school shootings happening each month, how can Lake Washington guarantee my child's safety on open campuses within Lake Washington School District?
We can't guarantee anybody's safety, but I can tell you that we are investing in our last set of levies, our last set of capital levies. A significant proportion of that went to campus safety, installing multiple exits, making sure that there are lockable doors in all places, and that there are exit plans in place. We can't promise you safety, we can just do our best.
Thank you, Chris. Siri?
And I would agree with what Chris just said. We can't guarantee safety, but we have established those security measures in different places. In addition, as we look at building schools, we are addressing some of those security and components as well. And so those are the pieces that we are doing the best.
Thank you. Okay, Eric?
Well, the district, we need to stop relying on portables. A school that is a collection of portables is not going to be ultimately a safe school. So we need to make sure that is not a long-term facilities plan for the district, because ultimately that will not be safe for students.
Rob?
If elected, I will guarantee safety. No, of course, part of life is that there's no guarantees when it comes to safety. We've all learned that the hard way, just by watching the news on a regular basis these days. Just to continue Eric's thoughts there, I have visited all 51 schools in the district over the past few weeks, and yes, the amount of portables is really horrifying in and of itself, but to do our best to guarantee safety is something that is definitely on top of mind.
Thank you, Rob. Did Jackie have anything really? Okay. All right, Eric, I'm going to have you start with the next question. Should bonds be approved at 60% or change to 50%? And there's a follow-up to this. Will you actively work to make this happen through the legislature?
Yes and yes. Does that work?
It does.
Great.
Siri? Well, actually, if our time was ready. Yep.
I would say yes, and I already have them.
Chris?
Yes and no. I believe that the school board is not responsible for changing state rules. The state legislature is responsible for changing state laws. I'll lobby them, but I'm not going down to Olympia. My time is better spent here.
Thank you. Okay. No? Okay, it's Rob.
All the other comparable school districts in our region were able to pass their school obligation bonds at 60%. Ours did not pass because I believe there were a lot of people in the district that didn't even know there was a bond on the ballot. There were no signs planted, there was not a comprehensive pamphlet sent out to the constituents. I believe with the proper promotion, the bond will pass at 60%.
Thank you. All right, Rob, you're going to start the next question, and we're going to go this way. What one thing will you personally lead to ensure the passage of the next bond?
I have a communications degree from one of the better communication schools on the East Coast. I parlayed that into a very successful radio career. I'm a very good communicator. I love talking to people. I love exchanging in conversation and dialogue and sharing thoughts and ideas and accepting criticism and being flexible to change. That's what's sorely lacking on the board right now, and that's what I bring.
Thank you. Anything from Jackie? Okay. Chris?
Rob, I'm going to hold you to that, whether or not you win the election. Because the PTSA rules make it harder for us to advocate for passage of the bond when we're on the board than for private citizens. Anyway, I have already engaged. I have been to the Citizens Levy Committee meetings over the course of the summer, and I am engaged with the Citizens Levy Committee. Once I'm done with my campaign, I'll be working hard for them.
Siri?
I will commit to continuing to engage with the community and to look for volunteers and to be out there supporting it. If I would vote to put a bond for passage, I would then actively participate in getting it to be passed.
Thank you. Eric?
Well, I will make sure that the district puts forward a bond that will pass, one that builds in small wins before asking for large dollar amounts.
Thank you. I've got one more. Oh, there's more coming, I guess. Okay. All right, so Siri, you're going to answer this first. Is early release and delayed start once weekly in the best interest of our students, educators, and families? Would not a consistent schedule be better?
The opportunity for our teachers to get together and be able to collaborate as a group and be able to come up with lesson plans to work on the concepts of their classrooms and build those things, I think that time frame is very important, and having the opportunity to do that. Otherwise, teachers don't have that time frame in which to get together.
Chris?
Sorry, I was so busy contemplating it that sorry, I'm likely to say what she said, but can you just reread the question so I can answer the
I
right
would be
question?
happy to do that. Okay.
Okay.
Is early release and delayed start once weekly in the best interest of our students, educators, and families? Would not a consistent schedule be better?
This is a catch-22. If you have a consistent schedule, then we have still got to work in the time for professional development. And so we have random days off, and parents don't like those either. So I think this is the best possible solution, so it's a predictable solution for families to schedule around.
Anything from Jackie? Okay, go.
I always found it awkward with the early release on Wednesdays. I think it's hard on parents. I think there's solutions that can be looked into. I don't have enough data to be on the inside of some of the things I would like to look over to come up with proper solutions, but I look forward to that opportunity. If I'm so honored to be elected, I would be enthusiastic about doing that.
Eric?
The answer to your question is that, I mean, everyone's recognized there's this tension in it, and that inconsistent schedules is, yes, it's harder on parents, but ultimately allowing for teacher planning time will lead to better education, and that's why we send our kids to school.
Great. We're going to continue on with our 20-second answers. You okay with that? Okay. All right. Okay, so let's see. Siri, you started. So I think we're going to Jackie and then we're going to go this way, okay? All right. Transportation has faced many challenges in recent years. In particular, many of the buses are overcrowded to the extent that children are sitting in aisles. What is your solution for this? You have something, yeah.
Transportation receives funding from the state as well as from our levies. About 1.3 million of the total budget comes from levies. To increase our costs, more levy dollars would need to be used, taking those dollars away from something else. This year, the district is working on reducing overcrowding in the middle school, which is the most common complaint I hear as a board member.
Thank you. Chris?
Squeezing budgets has resulted in squeezing school bus seats, and I think we've squeezed them a little bit too far. At this point, it's not just the tuba player and the bass player who can't get their instrument onto the bus. It's the trumpets, and soon it'll be the flutes. We need to put a little bit more money back into the buses, that's all.
Thank you. Siri?
I think those are all components. I also think that there's an opportunity to partner and look at options of using public transportation, at least in which to serve our high school students, and then open up opportunities for those buses to be available elsewhere as our students have the capacity to get there through other means.
Okay. Eric?
Well, a long-term approach would be citing our schools in areas that don't require as much transportation, as much busing. And if I'm remembering correctly, that was a priority of the task force in our recommendation.
Okay. Rob?
I'm glad you brought this up because I've been at school board meetings as a spectator where during the public comment segment, parents have approached the school board and pleaded with the school board to do something about their child who was being forced to sit in the aisle. And I would just sit there and think that if you're a school board director, that has to be taken care of the next day. I think not only is it unsafe for a child to have to sit in the aisle of a school bus, but I'm pretty sure it's illegal.
Thank you. All right. Chris, you're going to answer the question, first question. Art occurs only once a month. Foreign language starts too late in the school career. Music is only 2 times a week. How can we increase arts and language?
I have to admit, I'm usually on the other side of this conversation when there are 40 art docents and 1 science docent per elementary school. We have done a pretty good job of relying at the elementary school on letting parents in to help us increase in arts. Language, we haven't solved that. That's all there is to it.
Do anything from? Okay.
Well, I miss the days where when I went to school there was a designated art teacher. I would like to have those days back. I believe those days can come back. I believe that the art docents do a wonderful job. My wife has been one for more than 1 school year. And I'm hopeful that in our Lake Washington School District, art teachers will be hired before too long.
Eric?
Well, these were the 3 things that I was worst at when I was in school. So my initial thought was, well, we need to create more opportunities for the kids who want to do those. And one of the ways of doing that is having choice schools that are focused on art, are focused on languages, and are focused on music.
Siri?
We're at a possibility of opportunity at this point with the Cleary decision that has come down and the but the legislature beginning to fully fund materials and operating costs as well as other issues. This then allows our levy money that was supporting those to be utilized for the extracurricular activities and other extensions that we wanted. So that is a possibility then to start looking at art opportunities and foreign language opportunities.
Okay, great. All right, Eric, you're going to answer this first. Okay. As one of 5 board members, you will have to work collaboratively with the other 4 members to create the best ideas and plans. Please give a specific example how you have worked well with a diverse group to come to cooperative agreements.
Sure. I do that I chair the City of Kirkland Planning Commission, so I do that 2 times a month. We're not always in agreement. The key is to have an environment in which people feel safe to share their ideas and to get all the ideas on the table first before a decision is formed.
Thank you. Rob?
In March of this past year, I was recently named the Seattle chapter president of the Autism Science Foundation, and we are currently working on some fundraisers. And I have had in my 15-year radio career a staff that worked alongside me, but I was in charge of this particular staff, and we worked well, and we had very, very, very many successful years.
Thank you. Anything? Okay. Chris?
When I first campaigned for the school board, Jackie threw me out of a school board meeting for campaigning from the floor. I have learned to work with diverse opinions on our school board, and I think that my track record shows that.
Thank you. Siri?
I have had the opportunity to work in diverse settings and coming to agreement in multiple places. I live in the Dominican Republic, where I'm the community organizer, and worked with a variety of communities and government officials to bring things together to improve their lives. I worked on the teen pregnancy prevention program, where I worked with 12 people.
Thank you. All right, Rob, you're going to answer this first. Okay. You spoke about crowded classrooms as it relates to the lack of space, but my daughter has 26 students in her class at an elementary school that is not strapped for space. So what other issues do you believe are the most responsive for this, and what would you suggest to be done to stop classroom expansion?
Well, classroom expansion is a direct result of 3 failed bombs in a row. And this is a self-made problem the school board did not do nearly enough to promote the bond. As I stated earlier, I've had neighbors, and more recently I've gone district-wide to people that told me they would have voted yes for the bond had they known there was one on the ballot.
Thank you. Eric?
Sure. Well, there are two. I did the same thing. There are two prongs to facilities planning that we're looking at. One is capacity, and making sure we have enough space for students, and two is making sure we have the right facilities for students. We could solve our capacity problems today if we just put up a bunch of tin sheds and had the kids learn in there. But the key is that we're not just building new classrooms, we're building the right classrooms. So that is the other issue.
Siri?
Class size is actually based upon ratios that are set, and we have a policy established as what those ratios should be. In each school, that can be different in the sense of we do it as a district average, and it depends on grades. And so the amount of classrooms available, we determine based on the amount of size. We actually don't increase the size of the classroom based on. I have to stop there.
That's all right, I can pile on. The basic problem is that we need to license people to have babies. Because when you have 3 classrooms for second graders, and 75 of them show up, you're gonna have 325 kids second grade classrooms. That's all there is to it. Now, the thing is, on average across our district, we have not changed the number of kids in classrooms. But we did install 30 portable classrooms last summer.
Thank you. Anything from Jackie related? Okay. All right, Siri, you're going to start next with this question. How big should our comprehensive high schools be? I guess number of students is what we're probably asking.
No more than 1,500.
Okay.
Well, I don't know that there's ways to have schools within schools. I mean, the key to this is to make sure that there's not a school where you feel anonymous at. So if that number is 1,000, 1,500, it may be, but there are ways to structure schools and learning environments so that we can have, like I said, schools within schools that provide for that personalized education.
I'm just going to say no higher than having the student to teacher ratio be 22 or 23 to 1 max.
Okay. Chris?
Having done a bit of canvassing over the last couple of weeks, I can tell you that anything more than 2,000 is quite unpopular. And somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 is the sweet spot for economies of scale for the administration and running the building without annoying the neighborhood too badly with traffic problems.
All right. Natalie, we're going to have you start if Jackie has something related to this. How would you address the perception that choice schools can create that you need to win the lottery to get a good education? Okay. All right, Rob?
Well, it wouldn't be such the overwhelming desire to feel like you have to win a lottery if we could take some of the best practices from these very successful choice schools and implement them into the regular schools so that everyone feels like they're benefiting. Identifying the best practices and replicating them is the signature slogan that I keep falling back on.
Thank you. Eric?
Well, the easiest way is to stop the perception is to make it so that you don't have to win the lottery to be able to get into a choice program, to increase the number of choice schools, and also increase the number of choice programs within the comprehensive school, so that each family can find the right fit for their kid.
Siri?
I think it goes back to ensuring we have solid educational programming and academic fit at all our schools. And that way you can have a range of opportunities within it.
Fortunately, this is a good question. And fortunately for my challenger, we've already been doing the best practices move with our signature programs in our comprehensive high schools for the last 3 years. We are doing that, and that's exactly what we need to keep doing more of. Every school still needs to be a choice school.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. So Chris, you're going to start with this one. What are your thoughts on having a staff position that would perform as a CFO?
Okay, I'm not ready for that one. I have no thoughts on it, sorry. A CFO, I got nothing. I just got nothing. Siri, yours.
I understand the spirit of the question.
Okay. Just Siri, we're going this way. We're going this way. Yeah, you know.
It would depend what the role of the CFO is. I do believe we have a strong financial department who does very good work. Barbara Posthumus is very good. She is excellent in what she does. So I'd have to understand better what the idea is behind a CFO.
Okay. Eric, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Well, I don't really understand. I don't quite understand the question, to be candid. Does the district need somebody on staff who is managing the district's finances? The answer is yes. Whether we want to call them a CFO or something different, I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I guess if it makes them feel good, we can call them a CFO.
I would imagine that the person that asked the question is just wanting more transparency, and that's certainly something that everyone deserves when it comes to the spending of the funds that we hopefully like to have. When you have transparency with your constituents, they're a lot more likely to trust in you and then finally vote yes and get that bond to pass.
All right. Eric, we're going to go back to you. As the district has grown in size, the Quest or Gifted program has not grown proportionally. And many gifted students are denied access to the program because of the lack of space. How do you plan to fix this? And do you plan to fix this? And if so, how?
Okay. The answer, well, to be honest, I will admit that I did not know that was an issue. So I'm not in a position to say whether it's an issue I would fix or not at this point. Whoever asked that question, I would be very interested in hearing more about it, though.
Thank you. Siri?
The importance of challenging all our students at the level they are ready to be challenged is very important, and Quest is definitely one component of that. We have expanded the full-time Quest program actually in the last few years. It might not still be addressing the full need. At the same time, we need to be able to challenge them directly in our regular schools through differentiated instruction and having those opportunities.
Chris?
The Quest program doesn't serve enough children, and I don't believe that growing the existing Quest program is the right solution. We have schools where 30% of our first graders are gifted by national standards, and we've got schools where 1 of our first graders is gifted by national standards. They're different problems. We need to be challenging the high end of students in every single building, and I believe the best way to do that is by challenging them in place.
My concerns go even further than this. As the class sizes unfortunately continue to grow, teachers are going to be forced to teach to the middle, if you will. When you have such a large classroom, you can't teach to the gifted students in that classroom as well. You can't teach to the children that need more attention as far as getting their grades up or their knowledge of the lesson up. And they tend to teach to the middle, which benefits nobody.
Thank you. All right, Rob, I'm going to have you answer the next question. Is there anything the board can do to encourage our cities to enact local ordinances that require developers to provide more funding for our schools?
When it comes to trying to encourage outside entities, we need to be resourceful on the school board. We need to figure out ways. I heard my opponents suggest earlier that there's not much you can do to promote the bond. To me, that's just not being resourceful enough. We can't make excuses. We need to think for ourselves and hopefully get outside help as well and have good relationships there, but not depend on them.
Anything from Jackie related to? Okay. Chris?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sure. Is there anything the board can do to encourage our cities to enact local ordinances to require developers to provide more funding for our schools?
The only thing that moves more slowly than a school district is a city. And I am proud of the fact that while I've been on the board, we've finally started to collect any impact fees from developers in Kirkland. This is a positive development. Are we collecting enough? No. I would like to push it further, but it's going to take a long time.
Siri.
Each year, the district has to put together a capital facilities plan. That is a 6-year plan, and then that is to what is used to establish the impact fees that go to our cities of Kirkland, Redmond, and Sammamish. As new projects come on, those impact fees have increased over the last few years. And so we have actually worked closely with our city councils and with the mayors.
Thank you. Eric?
So the collection of impact fees is a somewhat tricky legal issue in that they have to be rationally related to some sort of standard. You can't just decide we're going to have impact fees be X amount. So, you know, the key to doing this in a smart way is to work collaboratively with the cities and to work with city leaders to do this.
Thank you. Okay, Siri, I'm going to have you answer. This is our last question of the evening. Okay. How do you feel about the turnout here tonight? Do you believe it's representative of the lack of communication with the community? Indifference? People feeling that an attempt to make a difference is futile? What would you do to change this dynamic?
I'm very pleased that there are people here tonight. There you go. At the same time, I'm not going to make a judgment as to what this implies about our community because I know our community has busy lives, and part of my role as a board member is to actively put myself out into that community and to speak to people where they are and not expect for them to come to me.
Thank you. Chris?
Given that this audience is about 30 people larger than the average number of people attending a school board meeting, I'm thrilled. That's it.
Okay. Rob?
I was going to say the same thing, but not in such a comical way. I've attended school board meetings as a spectator, and there's never anyone there, and that concerns me, and I think that reflects the personality of the school board, unfortunately. I would like to open the communication. I would like to have better involvement. I think that the people that turned out here tonight is wonderful, but considering the gravity of the circumstances of the school district right now, it's very concerning.
Eric?
Yeah, I'm pleased with the turnout. Thank you everyone who came out tonight. I would just add, you know, the thing that a leader needs to do is to affirmatively reach out to stakeholders and to community members, not just talk to those who are always showing up, but find ways to reach out to those who aren't able to show up.
Great. So this concludes our wait, Siri, did I get?
You did, I just
Okay.
had more questions.
Okay, no, you know what, I just got, yes, our thank you. No more questions, but thank you, all of you, for being here this evening, for your time and for your fantastic, engaged participation. We want to also thank the candidates for their flexibility as we changed the rules kind of midstream and took more audience questions, but we really wanted to honor those questions that you had. You provided us with a wealth of information, and we thank you for all you do to support the 28,000 students in our school district.